Okay, so I just want to go over a few things that we'll be discussing this evening. So this is the IPS Morning Deprogram. So last night I wanted to talk about a couple of things like James Wood, who I discussed when he was reporting on how his home had burned down, tearfully. James Woods was actually crying about it. He revealed that his Pacific Palisades home had burned, but then later came back to say a miracle has happened. So days after he broke down in an interview, believing that it was all gone, that had been utterly destroyed, it turns out that miraculously his home had survived. Now, what is the explanation for that? Thoughts and prayers, maybe thoughts and prayers did for James Woods' home what it did for Donald Trump's ear. Although thoughts and prayers never bring back the fake dead kids. But I was referring to this article by Miles Matthys, who really encapsulates what I've been saying here. He said, quote, "I don't trust anything the stars are telling us, even about their own homes. Remember, they are actors, and they create fiction for a living. So get your information somewhere else." That's Miles Matthys on his article, milesmathys.com/palisades. And I highly recommend this article. I tweeted this to James Woods with the photo of James Woods' house, because this was posted before we were shown that Woods' home indeed survived. I have a couple of other relevant quotes from that article by Miles Matthys, and he has his own explanations for why he thinks this whole thing happened, but our agreement for sure is on how phony it all is. Here's another example. Too dangerous for professional teams, really, and the conditions so dangerous for professional hotshot teams, but not too dangerous for Governor Newsom. What about all we hear trying to outrun a fire, since they travel faster than a car? But despite the strong winds, the fire is barely moving here, and Newsom is obviously in no fear of it. And many noticed Newsom gleefully dancing, talking about how they would rebuild upon the ashes. But again, he says here, this is Miles Matthys, "My usual warning here applies: don't trust the mainstream accounts or the alternative conspiracy accounts. These are planted to keep you off the scent." And I'm glad he says that, because one of the main points of the IPS is to be a separate entity from alternative and conspiracy theorists, because alt media is mainstream media's heel. Conspiracy theories are simply the controlled opposition anti-position. It's the anti-position to anything that is promoted by the mainstream. So you have pro and anti. And if you think taking the anti-position is correct, you are a puppet. You're as much a puppet as those who accept the pro position. The only logical place to stand here is anti-pro, anti-anti. And you only find that here at the IPS. And think about how people react when the news is published. They react to the headlines as though these things are real. And I advocate suspending judgment. I mean, imagine if you had spent the night up just praying, up late, praying all night for James Woods and his home. And then you find out it didn't matter. His home was safe. You could have spent that prayer on somebody else. So you only have so many F's to give. Why waste them when most of the headlines are likely misleading, sensationalist, just dripping with fake blood? Violet posted this. They watched the movie Homestead. Homestead, a 113-minute long movie. It says the reviews are bad. The prepper channels and militia channels love it, though. But they have looters getting arrested, which was a theme here. And so let's get into that. So Homestead was some prepper porn. And we talked about it in December because it had this trailer that showed Los Angeles getting nuked, and then this being followed by chaos and looting. Well, interestingly enough, this theme is being consistently reiterated. Let me give you a couple of examples. It's unbelievable, Jay Leno says, describing the devastation of the LA wildfires. It looks like Hiroshima. It's literally on the scale of 9/11. It looks like Hiroshima or a horrible thing. The entire city's wiped out. Pacific Palisades doesn't exist and probably won't exist for the next 5 or 6 years. How can you rebuild from this? It's insurmountable. So here's Jay Leno describing how this has been like a nuke, just like the movie, which is in theaters right now, Homestead. Donald Trump to Newsmax. LA fire damage is akin to a nuke strike. President-elect Donald Trump described the neglect that led to the death and destruction wrought by the Los Angeles wildfires. Now, this comparing it to nukes, this is just obviously rhetoric, make everything like a war, dress it up in a certain way. But what I'm pointing out is the consistency. As I've been saying for some time, you watch the news, you watch what's popular in the movies, there's going to be an echo chamber effect, and it's reiterating a theme. And it seems to me that the nuke, which may still be coming, and I think it is, because of Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, and by the way, Fallout 2 was postponed because of this. So these aren't coincidences. What we're seeing here is this zeitgeist painting storyline, this narrative that is just putting this picture out there for us to live in. It's a backdrop. So Los Angeles just got nuked for all intents and purposes. Now, using climate change to do it gives them an advantage because this is a universal threat, and it's kind of ambiguous. The left wing can say climate change, the right wing can say, oh, this was done by negligence and by the government or by illegal immigrants. You see how this works? So both sides agree that the thing happened, and they just fight over the interpretation. And this is what Miles Matthys was alluding to. But it wasn't a nuke. This was, if anything, just a controlled demolition, a regular burn, but a controlled demolition. So it was very much like 9/11 in that sense. Not a coincidence that celebrities were on the front of this. We immediately jumped on the case of Steven Gutenberg, who was saving people's lives, moving cars, rescuing people, helping the fire department, if that makes any sense. But it was like he stepped out of the movie Lavalantula, in which he was saving Los Angeles from fires started by lava spewing giant tarantulas. But this idea of life imitating art that we're constantly seeing, life imitating Netflix, which we know, those of us who are informed, enlightened about this matter, it is actually psyops imitating life. So these connections between Los Angeles and the nuke corresponding to the movie and what the politicians are saying and the celebrities are saying, it's all connected. So the predictive programming, concurrent programming occurs in the entertainment, in the news, with the politicians, the celebrities. It's all monolithic, and it creates one echo chamber. Tucker Carlson was told by an intelligence official that the U.S. government took down Chinese satellites that controlled the drones over New Jersey. Tucker also says aliens are demons, and he was attacked by one in his sleep, and it left scars, claw marks, down his back, which he hasn't shown us yet. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said, I just flew into DCA. Before landing, our pilot announced he had to fly in from another direction because of, quote, unauthorized drone activity over the White House. So the drone story is ongoing. And let me play this, because this is from the ISS. We've been wondering what's up with Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore still stranded in the ISS. And many thought it was strange that they were there for a short trip, but managed to pack at least 8 months in advance costumes for Christmas. Well, here is Butch talking about why they don't even need to change clothes in space.
Clothes fit loosely up here. It's not like on Earth where you sweat and it gets bad. I mean, they fit loosely, so you can wear things, honestly, for weeks at a time, and it doesn't bother you at all. So we never had any issue with wearing clothes for an extended amount of time.
It doesn't bother you at all, but does it bother others?
Now we have plenty of clothes. We are well fed.
And he is well fed. And I look at these individuals with their tight khakis, looking like stuffed sausages, and I'm like, why are you wrapped up in your clothes so tight? There's no gravity. You don't even need belts to pull your, there's no gravity pulling your pants. You can wear loose fitting clothes. But no, these guys are just wrapped tight, and it's to hide I'm not going to say bungee cords. I say that facetiously. More than likely they're using some kind of a seesaw, but there are straps involved. These individuals are faking zero-G using something similar to what Christopher Nolan would have used in Inception to fake zero-G without wires, without CGI, but it's a seesaw, and a counterweight. I also find it kind of gross how he describes how much they eat, because I've seen their facilities, and to think that they're all sharing that, I mean, the whole thing is just so gross. ISS is disgusting.
I've never seen anyone ever eat as much as Don Pettit can eat. It is amazing to watch this man eat, as skinny as he is. So that's just been a joy within itself. Every mealtime. Actually, I get up at morning. I get up early. Don gets up early.
And I've noticed that they've added CGI hair to Suni Williams. So she has her usual hairdo, which is generally hairsprayed into this almost like a crown of snakes, like Medusa. But now it seems like they have her hair up, but then they augment it from about where it turns gray on up with CGI to wave around. Totally fake. Experts not convinced mysterious 8-foot ring of space junk in Kenya came from space. I mentioned this last week, that there's space junk in Kenya, but the experts aren't really sure what it is. And I haven't seen anything to suggest it's not simply AI. It's just one picture, and that's all we have to go off of. And the so-called experts don't think it's space junk. I'm not sure what it is either, but it doesn't matter. The meme space junk is out there. People believe in it. NASA's getting sued for space junk hitting somebody's house. They're getting sued for what they said was emotional trauma, emotional duress, because it hit their house. Oh, also, 2025 is the year of Call of Duty 2. And Call of Duty 2 has widespread use of drones. Here's an article about how Call of Duty 2 and 2025 are aligning. It says, Nuketown 2025. It was exciting to imagine what the world would be like in 2025 back then, yet it felt so distant and full of possibilities. So this Call of Duty 2 was set years in the future, which is now. And in that game, it exemplifies the use of social media for propaganda to influence the populations and a widespread use of drones. So here's an example of predictive programming being noted by people who play these games. Okay, here is real James Woods telling the story of his house burning down, how he's seen the house destroyed. And then later, of course, it's a miracle. His house survived. So again, thoughts and prayers to James Wood. Actually worked, saved his house, brought it back, just like Trump's ear miraculously healed. So don't stop sending your thoughts and prayers to these Hollywood elitists. And look at this picture. This is from Wall-E. Got me thinking about Butch up on the space station. How he's somewhat corpulent, and they're eating very well. And if you haven't seen Wall-E, humans in space live on this like a space ark because they've destroyed the Earth. And after several generations, they have no need to walk around or exercise because robots do everything. And their bones get weak and their bodies get bigger and rounder. And they become these gross parodies of what we should be. And part of this movie's critique of Western civilization is that we are exploiting an underclass, and it's making us weak and detached from reality. We experience life through a screen, and we don't touch the ground. And at the end of the movie, Wall-E, they go back to the Earth, and they decide to embrace kind of an agrarian communist revolution. They get rid of their robots. All very symbolic, all brainwashing. But I'm just pointing out the similarity between Butch on the ISS and this particular character from Wall-E. Well, we will be live this evening to take calls. I just want to make it a point to drop by the office in the mornings and kind of give everybody an update as to what we're going to be discussing later in the evening. So thanks for joining. Thanks for being a member. And we'll see you all likely this evening. And feel free to leave comments. I will be reading comments live.
Doesn't make it red. I don't take the red pill. I don't take the